right, here we go on a Thursday. Welcoming everybody to the Gem City Sports Podcast, brought to you by our friends at Reax Investments, keeping financial guidance simple. We're happy to have them along for the ride as we go along through our podcast journey. If you want more information on keeping financial guidance simple, head to their website, www.reaxinvestments.com, or you can simply call their phone number during business hours, 814-734-3433. Again, 814-734-3433. Reax Investments, keeping financial guidance simple. Well, condolences to all of you if the team you picked to win the tournament is already out. That might be for some of you Clemson fans, but for those of you who are watching basketball every single day just like us, happy to have you in. Got a great show planned for you tonight. Tom Koval is going to join us in just a few minutes. He's going to give his District 10 Players of the Year on the boys and girls side. Remember, during our episode on Monday of Flagship City Sports Talk, Nick, Paul, and I all went with Avery Collins of the boys, Michaela Presser-Palmer for the girls. We'll see if Tom picks anybody different. And we're also breaking down some of the big names and the big storylines for the District 10 season with local teams now eliminated from state playoff contention. And we're also going to talk about some other interesting topics as well, including travel basketball and how that's kind of helped aid a lot of the growth of this game in the Erie County area moving forward. Got a lot to get to as well. We're going to talk Gannon women's basketball in just a second as they get ready to move in the Elite Eight coming up on Monday. So much going on happening tonight and through the remainder of the week and the month of March. It is madness, after all, as they coin it. Make sure to give us a follow, like, subscribe at Gem City SN. We're on X, Facebook, YouTube, all the good stuff tonight. However you get your podcast, you can join us there and enjoy the ride. All right, so much happening tonight. Like we said, in case you missed it, Gannon women's basketball back in the Elite Eight. Of course, they took down IUP in the regional final 72-59 on Monday. Now an opportunity to head right back to said Elite Eight and hopefully get a chance to move one step further than last year into the Final Four. Joining us on the show, second chance I'm going to get a chance to talk to this guy, head coach Cleve Wright, who, what game were you watching in the tournament just a moment ago? I know you've got your eyes peeled to it.
Well, I got, I think it was Kansas, Arkansas, and then it flipped to Tennessee, whoever they were playing. But that's on my phone, and then I have a tab open where I'm watching the New York girls basketball state tournament. So I'm watching. I've got two games, plus I'm trying to talk to you. So I'll stop watching the game.
No, you're fine. Is that normally how the monitors look this time of year? You just got like basketball everywhere? Because I assume even when you're not watching film, you've got something on, right?
There's always something. And when you're not planning or coaching, then you're recruiting, and there's always something.
No, I hear you. It's a great time of year being in March. We talked about it on our Gannon podcast just a few hours ago that it is quite madness, and it's going to be Monday madness for you guys. And man, what a run. We talked about this a couple hours ago, but, this was a team that comes into the PSAC tournament. You guys get to the semifinals and you lose to Kutztown. Then you get the second seed in the Atlantic Regional. And it just seemed from maybe even an outsider's perspective, someone who's not around the team, like you guys just didn't waver. You didn't lose your focus, and you just went right back to Edinburgh where the PSAC tournament was, and you handled business. What was the key to maintaining steady like that when you have a tough loss, when you've had some peaks and valleys, to go in there and still do what you do?
Well, it's funny. I don't know that I know exactly what the key is. I'm just really, proud of our kids to respond. I know we were disappointed. We were happy to make the Final Four of our conference, and then disappointed in the way we played against Kutztown, and just really happy that we were able to respond and kind of. I think we came closer after that. That was a really challenge, and we've had some of those challenges throughout the year. So, I thought we had three really good games at the regional. I thought we played well together. I thought we connected with each other. I thought we weren't playing with any hesitation, and so I thought all of that was good. And so we're very happy to be where we're at right now, and excited for what's ahead.
Big game on Monday, of course. We're going to talk about that in just a second. We'll bring Tom Koval in just a second as well, our basketball insider. it goes without saying that, and we talked about this, that the Atlantic Regional almost felt like a PSAC tournament second edition with all of the teams that made it from the conference. And we knew into the semifinals that there was going to be an all PSAC matchup and whatnot. When's the last time in your tenure coaching Gannon or was there ever a year where you saw that many quality teams from the conference get that far in the regional? Or is it first? And what was that like?
The PSAC West is very, very strong and traditionally has been very strong. I thought this year, literally, there were times in the regional rankings at the end of the year, there were five of the 8 teams in the PSAC West were ranked in the top 10 and being considered or ranked in the top 10 for the NCAA. And so it's a gauntlet. And there's a lot of good teams. So, and you're looking at in our situation, we played Fayetteville State in the first round. Obviously, that was the first time we played them this year. And then you turn around and you got to play Seton Hill for the 4th time. Played them 2 times regular season, then played them in the conference quarterfinal. And then have to play them in the Atlantic Regional. That's hard to do. That's hard to come away with a win. And I mean, I think people forget that not only were they we beat them 4 times, but they were also the number 1 team in the region. So it wasn't like we're beating somebody that was bottom half or whatever. I mean, this was a quality team, and so that was a huge win for us. And then IUP. Was of course our 3rd time playing them, and so that's a hard road. But that's Division II basketball is a regional format, and you have to do that. And so whoever they put in front of you, you have to be ready for.
Tom Koval joining us on the show now, our basketball insider. Tom, I know you've gotten a chance to follow Gannon. And Cleve, you know who this guy is now.
I think I do. No, the only thing I don't like is I think what is that is on his back. What is that jersey on your back there? Is that a Laker jersey?
That is Kobe Bryant, yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm Larry Bird and the Celtics, so I'll still be nice though.
I mean, all
right, I'll just exit the arena. You two can hack it up from there.
No, Kobe's good. Just don't put a Magic Johnson up there. Although I do like him as well.
That's on the other side of the wall.
No, I bet it is.
No way. Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, well, I'm now interested in the theater of this, but TK, we've been talking a lot about Gannon on this show, and obviously, you as a coach know how difficult it is to beat teams multiple times in a season. What in your mind? Because again, 2 coaches, you guys understand the process to having to go through a team more than once, and obviously in conference schedule and region schedule, you're playing teams twice. That's obvious. You get to the playoffs and you play them multiple times. Just from both of your perspectives, I don't want to say you change your game because that's, you're not trying to change who you are for one game, but how do you go about, if at all, throwing in new wrinkles, doing little things at the end that maybe can help get you over the top that 3rd or in Seton Hill's case, 4th time?
Well, congratulations, right? You guys are making a great run. So happy to have you back from Miami of Ohio. That's for sure. Gannon so long ago playing under Bob Duquette for basketball and Bill Elias for football. So it's been a while. It's nice to see you back, and I'm super happy for you guys. I know, in my opinion, I love from a coaching standpoint of playing teams a 2nd and 3rd time because it really requires a lot of scouting. Your kids get to know the offensive sets of the other team and the tendencies of the players. I love to set up a man set and then have like kind of counter option the 2nd time or the 3rd time we play, just a little different wrinkle that we can kind of set up for later on. So I love the coaching strategy that goes along with it. But yeah, what a battle it is when teams know each other. It makes it really difficult to do the things that you want because the other coach is doing the same thing, right? They're scouting you and they're ready to stop everything that you're trying to do.
Yeah. I mean, I think what you're saying is right. When you're playing people multiple times, you might tweak some. You're not going to really, and what you said as well, Isaac, you're not changing the core of who you are, but you are looking to tweak a few things, or maybe you see, hey, wow, if when we play them again, or if we play them again, let's try. We need to try this because you didn't see it. Maybe that second time you're playing them, you're tweaking from the first, and then now you're playing them the third time, you're tweaking it again, and again, both of you are doing it, so it's coming out. There is great strategy. I guess we can liken it to. I'll go back to the Lakers Celtics. You liken it to a 7-game series. So if we were playing Seton Hill in a 7-game series, we won the series. We won 4.
Left them.
It felt like the number of times you had to play them that you were going to get to 7 at some point. I'm sure if they probably took more than just one Atlantic regional team, you might have to play them a 5th time. That's how crazy that rivalry was this season. It's fascinating because it's the 2nd straight year, of course, for your team in the Elite Eight. And I think, though, and you've said this time to time, that the route that you had to get to this point, though, is very different. Take us through kind of what the differences were from last year to this year, maybe some of the peaks and valleys that maybe you had to go through this season that didn't necessarily confront you last year, and what that has been like from your coaching experience this season.
Well, last year we had it was very interesting. We had very strong leaders who, what I mean by that is that they were very experienced, and Sam Porosco was National Player of the Year. She was in the top 9 NCAA Woman of the Year. We don't know where she finished in the top 9. She could have been number 2 for all we know. We just know she wasn't number 1 at the end, but she was able to go to the NCAA conference or the convention and was recognized and so forth. So there's a leader who was here 6 years due to COVID, had an injury. So you're 6 years in, you're a 6-year veteran with great leadership. And she really poured into our team in many, many ways. And then you have the other senior was, we had 2 other seniors, but one was injured. Allie Benham, a local kid who played at Harbor Creek, unbelievable kid, unbelievable family, had to, because of an injury, was on the bench for most of the season, wasn't even able to play. And then, of course, you get into the season and still wasn't able to be on the floor that much. But she was able to get into practice quite a bit. And then just the way she led our team off the floor, the example she was, the way she used her voice, and the way, and literally the kid would get up and come and whisper something in my ear, like she would see something, whatever. So she was completely, those 2 completely bought in and all in. And then Mikkel Nation was the other one. That's our other starting post player, and she was bought in. So she was, they were all just completely into it. So when you have those 3 people really pouring into the current team, which, by the way, had 6 freshmen on it at the time, I think they benefited from that. So then you go into this year and you have our leaders are basically in their 3rd year. So you've cut the experience in half with the experience, and have never been, a primary leader in a program. They've been a gap filler, which is an important terminology in our program, but they had responsibilities, but now they're thrust into being a leader and being the one that is in charge. In other words, they're driving the vehicle. They're not sitting in the back seat. They're not, along for the ride a little bit. When Sam was here and Allie was here, and Mikkel was here, they have to step it up, and so they did. But it takes time to grow into it. And I just think that there's just been an upward climb in their abilities to lead, their voice. They develop their voice, the understanding of, your eyes are always going to be on you. And so I think our leadership has continued to mature throughout the year. And I think that has made a difference in the way we're playing right now. I think some of those bumps we had, a couple in November, and then we had one in early February. Those bumps, I think, really helped us to grow, to mature, to see it, and they hurt. And you grow when you hurt, and when it's a challenge, you don't grow when everything's easy. And so I said to our team the other night after we won the regional championship, and we were on Ed Burroughs' floor there, and we just cut down one of the nets, and we're going to cut down the other net. And I just pulled him over and I said, hey, what we went through this year And one of them was a loss on Edinburgh's floor, and they clocked us good. And they beat us both times during the regular season. And then we had, again, there was some other bumps. And I said, we had to go through that to get here. So we need to use that to make us stronger, use that as fuel for our fire. And I think the kids are still hungry, and I'm excited to see what that next step looks like.
So now you move on to Monday, and you made a really interesting comment to me on the United podcast at Gannon, and you said if this was a 7-game series against Grand Valley State, we wouldn't win. But it's a 1-game series.
No. I said it would be very hard for us to win. I didn't say we wouldn't win.
Okay.
I said
that's what.
You know what? I hope you didn't tape that, because don't bring the tape back up. Because if I said that, I want to correct it.
I think you did. I think you did.
For us to win a 7-game series against them. But I do think it's 1 game. And I think we have a talented team. We're very capable. I think we're playing well now. I think what I was trying to say is that they're very well coached. They're a very good team. It's a very good program. Coach Williams and Coach Sayers there, they work very hard. And so I have a lot of respect. So out of respect, I say, that, but I don't think we're an easy out.
Yeah. And again, I think you look at, last year, I think you look at, obviously, roles were somewhat reversed. You came into the regional as the 1. Now you come in as the 8. And, you talk about experience. And I think that, for you've had experience in the Elite 8 before. And now a lot of these returning players, even though they're younger in their leadership, they now come back from the Elite 8 experience last year. Nothing changes, of course, in your preparation, your game plan, besides where you're at. But what is it that they can take from last year's experience that you think they may be able to apply to this season, given what they were able to experience in St. Joe's, Missouri last season?
Yeah. I think, when you go to the Elite 8, there's a lot of hoops you got to jump through. You don't have as much practice time. They want you got to, you're doing a community service, which we love doing. And you got a banquet, and you got all this stuff that can be a distraction. And I think not that it was necessarily last year, but I think, this year last year, none of those players had been to an Elite 8. Now we have 11 players who have been to Elite 8. Some of them played quite a bit. Some of them didn't play at all. And so, but they've been there. And so I think, having that experience certainly is helpful. I think it will help us to be, maybe hopefully a little bit more, even more focused, and ready for the light, ready for the lights that are going to be on, the spotlight that's going to be on. And so, I get the impression we've been back. We took off on Tuesday. We practiced Wednesday. Just practiced a little bit ago. I like our players' mentality right now. I like the way they're handling themselves. Their energy is fantastic in practice. Their voices are great. So I feel good about where we're at.
And a chance to get ready for that one coming up on Monday. Coach, before we let you go, because I know you've been at the facility for nearly all day today, as I'm sure you will be probably for the rest of the entire week. Do you have I know you said off air who you're rooting for in the men's and women's tournament for Division 1, of course, because we're rooting for the Gannon Golden Knights in Division 2. Do you have, could you pick a winner in either of the 2 tournaments? If I had to put you on the spot, who do you think's coming out?
For the men, I already told you I'm a Duke fan, so I really like Duke. Tom probably doesn't like Duke. Tom likes Kentucky. You like Kentucky?
Carolina.
You're Carolina?
Oh, yeah.
Why? I could have picked that. I should know.
Yeah.
Carolina barely made it in, Tom. I'm just saying.
You're right, but they are favored.
They look good on Tuesday, I'll tell you that.
They are favored now. I love it. No, so, partly the reason I'm a Duke fan is because I was at Duke. So I coached on the women's side of Duke a long time ago. And so And I got to know Coach K, and it's kind of like I'm a Steeler fan because I was a Steeler fan when I was growing up, and in Indiana. I'm from Indiana, and Larry Bird was big when I was growing up, so I'm that, So you kind of stick with who you have, and so and then I've caught just a couple of Duke games, but I'm also from Kentucky, and so I kind of like Kentucky, and so just because my entire family, although I do like to tease my family about Kentucky all the time if they lose or if they're not doing well, but. So,
anyone
but
for the women?
I would pick Duke. I'm picking Duke.
Duke for the men. What about for the women?
Duke for the men. For the women, I mean, I like UConn a lot. I like UConn. I know, but I know they win all the time. I used to not quite like them as much because it just felt like they were winning all the time. But I know Gino, and I really like the guy. I like what he does. He may not come off the right way in public to some people, but when you know him, he's the real deal.
Legends, that's for sure, between Coach K and Gino and the like of Coach Cleve Wright with the Gannon women's basketball program. Hey, we can't wait to see you on Monday. It's going to be an exciting experience, and try to get some rest. I've had you on enough podcasts tonight, so thanks again for taking a few minutes.
Hey, the next time you have me on, I'm going to make sure that right over here, I'm going to move my ring picture, and I'm going to put my Larry Bird autographed jersey right there. So if you have me on to ask me any questions about anything, I'm going to make sure that I have it right there. I can guarantee you one thing. The next time that you're on, TK's not going to want to be, because there's going to be some arguments happening between two legends here. Well, he does have Coach K there.
That's right. I love basketball, right? And I have Christian Laettner's shot. I mean, I'm a true basketball fan. So there's some Carolina stuff around as well. But, I totally respect Coach K and what they do at Duke. So, no hate there.
Tom, you would love it. When I was at Duke, Christian Laettner had just graduated, and they had back on the team was Bobby Hurley, Grant Hill, Thomas Hill. Some of those. Christian Laettner had just graduated, but I remember when I was being interviewed for the assistant's job, first time I met Coach K, and I worked for a lady. She's in the Hall of Fame right now, Gail Gestencourse, and she's in the Hall of Fame because of what she did at Duke. But I remember Gail introducing me to Coach K, and he said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "I'm from Kentucky." And he took a step back. He's, "You're not going to hit me, are you?" And it was so great. Here's the kind of guy he is. So he does that. He's joking with me. I don't see the guy for another, because we're recruiting like crazy. So maybe a couple months. And in Cameron Indoor Stadium, there's this long hallway, or there used to be. I'm sure it's not there anymore because they've done a lot of renovations since I was there. But there was this long hallway. And I remember it. And of course, here I am. I'm in my 20s, upper 20s. I'm in awe of just this guy. Like so I'm walking down the hallway. First time I've seen him for a couple months. I'm thinking, this guy doesn't remember who I was. Literally, he's within 10 feet of me. "Hey, Cleve, how you doing? How's it going? Where you been? Where you been on the road?" I'm like, my jaw just wanted to drop. Like, wow, that's really cool. So anyway, that's my Duke story. I can tell you my Larry Bird story next time.
You didn't hit him, did you?
What'd you say?
You didn't hit him, though, did you?
Oh, yeah, I hit him. Yeah. No.
I just had to ask. The rivalry ran pretty deep even back then, I'm sure, right?
No. Yeah, what's funny is that was right when Coach that was the year that Coach Valvano got sick. It was like maybe right after, and Coach Valvano was at Coach K's practices, and it was a really special time for the people our age. I'm going to speak for TK and I, and I'm probably older. I'm probably the oldest one on this podcast, but that was a special time in basketball right around there. So.
Yeah, no, miss those times, and I wasn't old enough to be a part of it. So just watching old YouTube clips, I guess. I wasn't even born yet.
I don't think you were born.
No, I doubt it. I was I believe those might be on YouTube. They may have compiled the old footage and put them on YouTube.
You need to do some research. It's kind of like when I talk to my girls, I'll ask my girls. I even ask my assistants, "Hey, do you know who Don Meyer is?" And when they tell me no, I go, "Look him up." Or I'll just go through all these names, and they're confused. I'm like, "Look him up. You can't be coaching basketball if you don't know, or look her up or look him up because they don't know." And that's young people now. They don't know the history, man. You gotta.
I was just going to say that word, history. It makes basketball so great when you understand all of that and see all the inner workings of how everything meshes together.
Yeah, exactly. It connects us all. Yeah. But you got to know the base. You got to know that stuff. So Isaac's feeling really uncomfortable right now.
Right.
I got some work to do. I got some homework. I'm gonna put this podcasting gig aside for a second, and we're gonna do a basketball history episode with Cleveland Tom. I am relegating my hosting duties to the two of you for the next 3 weeks.
There we go. Now we got him, TK. We got him now.
Oh,
you got me. I mean, I'm not an encyclopedia. Put it that way. I toss out the questions, and then that's about the extent of me. Hey, Coach. By the way, go ahead, TK.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, we got him back now. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you, Coach. Thanks again for taking the time. What a guy. I love talking to him even off camera, TK, because he knows the history. He's been behind the game. But I think, you guys both as coaches, there is an importance to knowing the history, knowing how we got to where we are at, whether it's strategy perspective, whether it's learning from the older players. And I think that that's important. And, I don't know how much you took from older coaches and whatnot into your game, but I'm sure there's a component to coaching where learning history to basketball is so important.
Yeah, I mean, Coach talked a lot about experience. I think that's experience from coaching and loving the game, but just to know who won and who the rivals were and situational basketball and what play this coach called in this certain situation. I mean, you always look back on that and you use pieces of that when you're coaching. You use pieces of that when you're playing. It just all ties together. Basketball hasn't changed that much from its core, right? I mean, we shoot a lot of three-pointers now, and you can't touch anybody without getting a foul. But the core of the game, it just revolves around that history. And I can remember growing up as a little kid, and you see Joe Namath and Johnny Unitas and Roger Starbuck, like these people like that. I didn't know who they were when they're announcers, and now I'm watching these games and it's people I grew up watching play are the announcers. So they're the old heads now. And it's really nice. I think it makes you appreciate the game more when you know the history of it, as opposed to just, stepping on the court and playing and not knowing anything about the game.
Well, two of you know a lot about the history. There's no question about that. And we are happy to just have Cleve Wright on the show. Gannon women's basketball, again, are in the Elite Eight. They will take on Grand Valley State on Monday night at 6 o'clock. It's a short drive down I-79 at UPMC Cooper Fieldhouse in Pittsburgh. Golden Knights trying to get to the Final Four. They were the 1 seed last year, could not get there. We'll see if they can take down Grand Valley State coming up on Monday night. Well, speaking of historic and legends, a legendary financial guidance institution in Erie is Reax Investments. They do a great job of keeping financial guidance simple. If you want more information, it's very simple. Just head to their website at www.reaxinvestments.com, or you can simply call their phone number during normal business hours, 814-734-3433. Again, 814-734-3433. I want to reintroduce and welcome in former District 10 championship winning head coach and now a state championship coach with Pennsylvania Middle School Basketball Championship team from this past weekend, Tom Koval. What a weekend that was for you. Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you. What a great group of girls right there. really great experience with that state championship tournament. They did a really good job down in State College. We got to play some teams from all over the state, Reading, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Altoona, a couple WPIAL teams. I mean, we had a great experience with the families, hanging out and stuff, but we got to win, and that was really cool. We had a scare in game 3 against Mars. We went to overtime. We were actually down 7 with under 2 minutes left, and the girls came out and they got it done. They didn't quit. They got stops on defense. We tied it up, and we had a big score with 3 seconds left in overtime to win it. And that just carried over into the state championship game against Norwin, and we got the W there too. And the girls are pretty excited. So what a great experience for those girls.
And something they won't forget about, and something that they can carry over momentum-wise into high school in just a couple of years. And congrats to you and the team. Great accomplishment. Speaking of accomplishments, we are entering now into the high school portion of this episode. And it's really going to be one of the last episodes that we talk high school basketball. Of course, Erie County teams eliminated last week from the state basketball tournament. But we on Monday gave our District 10 boys and girls basketball players of the year. So we're going to give TK an opportunity to give his as well. A lot to choose from. Obviously, there are some obvious choices if that's the direction you want to go, TK, but so many great individual performances. I think we talked a lot about a significant amount of players this year that really took over games for their team. But I'll leave the floor to you first with the boys. I know it's hard to pick one, but who is your District 10 boys basketball player of the year from your eyes, Tom?
The boys were really tough. The more that I thought to it to try to figure out who the best player was is a really tough decision, because you look at one of the teams that made the run with McDowell, and I can't pinpoint one for them. And because I thought they were more – I thought their team as a whole was what got them to advance, and that's a compliment to Coach O'Connor and the players on the team, because they were so unselfish. They played team defense. They shared the ball so well. So they had a lot of key players on that team. I really thought that Nando Marachi from Prep was really the driving force on their team. I mean, they also had a really good run and had some great players too. I really like Michael Thompson there, but he would be my choice. Nando really was the driving force of that team. He was the commander at the point guard position, sharing the ball. He could score as well. So if I had to pick one, I would go with him. But you got Kenny in your head. There's so many other good players that you don't want to miss. But that would be my choice. I think I'd go with Nando this year from Cathedral Prep.
I'll tell you what, he's grown so much from when he started with the program to where he is now. He's such a confident shooter too. And it's funny that you note him. We had picked Avery Collins from Erie First Christian, but they're two very similar players. They're very confident shooters. They don't take there's not a lot of hesitation either. They're not one of those guys who will occasionally, worry about where they're shooting from on the floor or anything of that nature. I think he and Avery are two guys who, wherever they're at on the court, you feel confident in them taking the shot. And I think, too, his defense has gotten better, too. We talked all year about Prep's offense and how good but their defense down the stretch, save for that last game that they played, was really a big catalyst to the reason why they were able to get as far as they did. It's a good pick. I mean, I think, too, one of the things that we saw, especially, with the McDowell run and others, is that we really started to see District 10 teams compete well and compete toe-in-toe with WPIAL teams, right? The Upper St. Clair game with McDowell was an overtime game. They had a chance to win it. McDowell did at the end of regulation. And I think players like Nando and Avery and others are going to be key, I think, Tom, for District 10 teams to be able to keep competing with WPIAL teams, because you have to have that shooter that can put the ball in the net more than 4 or 5 times in a game.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we were just talking this weekend. I was talking to Justin Jennings. His daughter was on our Fairview team as well. So we were talking about the best play that you can draw up. You still need somebody to score at the end of it, or the play that doesn't really work, right? So you need those types of players. And I think a point to make sure that all of our listeners know when they're dealing with their kids, or if any of the players are listening, every one of those players that we were talking about, I know I'm a little biased because Nando works with Keith Wallace for training in the off-season stuff, and so does Kenny from Girard. I see those guys in the gym putting in so much work. So when you talk about how confident they play, well, they've earned that confidence because they work so hard day in and day out with the fundamentals and the little things on how to dribble, how to shoot, right? The footwork, and the repetitions over and over again to perfect those things are so important. And that's why they are some of the best players in the area. And if you don't do that, you're not going to be on that level. So that's a good lesson for young players out there is you have to put the hard work in off the court, besides being just in your team's practice to really get to that level.
Yeah, no, I agree. Good pick there, Nando Maraki for Player of the Year from Prep. We had Avery Collins on the boys' side. I get the feeling, though, that we might have similar picks on the girls' side. Give me what you think is your girls' basketball District 10 Player of the Year, Tom.
Well, we know what the pick is, right? I mean, I tried to find other people, but you can't go away from right? You just can't. Yeah. You have Brooks great at Harbor Creek, and you have Paige at Fairview that are great players. Beal at Prep for the girls. I mean, there's some great players out there, but she's a star right now. She had a great season. She made a great run with her team. I thought she made the players around her team very good as well. You saw them step up in a lot of the playoff games, those close games. So hands down, Michaela had a great season, and I'm just very lucky she's a junior because we get to see her again next year.
And the nice thing is that she gets that extra year to be able to hone her skills. And, I think I can ask you this as somebody who has been on the floor and gets to evaluate individual players. What about her game do you think may translate to the college level? I wanted to ask Cleve that sort of a question, but I think it might be more appropriate for this setting. What does Michaela's game bring to the table that you think will be able to elevate her to college if she goes D1, wherever she goes?
Well, the first thing you got to look at the intangibles, right? She's got length. She's very long. So that size is that's genetics, right? You can't go and work in the off season and become taller, right? I mean, I remember watching the Brady Bunch, and they told Bobby to just keep hanging off the monkey bars, and he'd grow and it never hurt, right? So that's not going to happen.
Doesn't work.
Which really gives her a good advantage. But when you tie in her athleticism that she has, you could definitely notice on the floor her athleticism is a different level than the girls that she's playing with, and that transfers her to above the Division II level to the Division I level. And the other things I think that coaches can probably work on with her footwork and efficiency in her footwork, like that stuff you can actually work and become better at. But your athleticism and your size, some people just aren't blessed with that. So it's a little bit more difficult for them. She has things, and it's going to carry her a long way.
Yeah, I mean, she's already accomplished, say, for winning a state championship, which I think, again, with her on the floor, Northwestern's going to be another contender again next year. She's done everything she can do in high school, and we see the offers that she's getting and things like that nature. We get a lot of great players in District 10. There's very rare times that we get the elite, clearly above the rest. And I think Michaela Presser-Palmer is certainly one of those players. It's going to be exciting to get to see where she goes, moving forward as we look into her senior year. And certainly at some point she will make a decision as to where she's going to play, if that's the decision that she decides that she wants to play in college, for sure. I want to end the show with this, TK, because we haven't brought up a Tom's topic yet. We've been ingrained in playoff basketball and live guests and things of that nature. Now we go to the off-season quote, but as we know, there's really no off-season when it comes to basketball, really any sport at this point. And for you as the coach of the team that was able to get there and win the state championship, and even others that are around that we now get into the off-season portion, I want to get your thoughts on just how big travel AAU has gotten around here. We see players, baseball, softball, football, it happens. And I'm sure it's been the key in basketball for a while too. But just how big is it, or how expected, I guess, is it now for a player to then start playing with a travel or an AAU team after the season? Would you encourage it? Would you expect your players to do it? How would you go about players choosing to play after the high school season ends?
I think it's a very important decision. There's a lot of factors that need to come into play. Number one, like you said, it's very popular. And there's a lot of parents that believe that their kid is the next LeBron James or the next Paige Beckers or Caitlin Clark, whatever it may be. And we want to have high expectations for our kids. So I'm certainly not trying to take dreams away, but you have to be picky in what you're doing. And I know I just started a travel program a few years ago that I have a lot of my daughter and her friends that are in. And one of the reasons I started it, besides my busy schedule and I want to be able to get to my daughter's games, was I wanted to make sure that my daughter and her friends learn how to play basketball the right way. And when you get into travel basketball, there's a lot of money involved. There's a lot of programs that are doing it for money, right? The coaches are getting paid. The program's making money off of it. They have their own tournament, make money. So it becomes a big money grab for some people, and not everybody. Parents just throw money at things because they want their kids to play. And I think one of the things that I shied away from is that the games aren't as important as the practices when you're young, right? We just talked about, Preston Palmer. We're talking about Marachi. We're talking about, all these really good players, Paige Garrity and whatnot. They are working on fundamentals. They're learning how to pass and shoot. They're learning about footwork. And if you're not getting that at travel basketball, if you're just getting games and learning how to run an offense in a press, you're not going to become a better basketball player. So I think if you look at travel sports, it's very important on who your coach is, right? Because you want that coach to be teaching fundamentals. If you're just looking for, because you can go to any tournament, and win it, and there might not be very good teams in it. There's different levels to this. You have the Nike circuit, and you have the Puma circuit, and there's gold brackets and silver brackets and platinum brackets. There's just so much involved. But I think it comes down to the bottom, not learning the fundamentals of basketball and learning how to make decisions on how to play and just running somebody's cookie cutter offense and running sets to try to get scores. Or you're playing against a team that just presses all the time, and you're getting scores off of that. You might win games and come home with a medal, but you're not really learning how to be a really good basketball player. So, parents really have to research that, and they have to ask people that really know the game to make sure that they're getting involved into the right thing.
I'm curious because you get 4 years in high school, barring something crazy, and that gives you the opportunity for other AAU and travel basketball seasons as well. What would be your recommendation for how much more you should do? Whether it's a time frame of this many months outside of high school or this many teams. What would be your recommendation as a coach, to players now of this is how much travel across the high school career that you should do to be able to have that translate to the next level? Is there a number around it? Is it just being on a specific team or with a specific coach? How do you quantify it so that they get enough to be able to make it worthwhile as they head into college?
That's so difficult because 1% of all high school players go to play in college. So we're talking about such a small few, although so many people want to do it. I mean, you can watch videos of Kobe Bryant, and he talks about how he learned that if he got up at 5 a.m. and worked out for 2 hours and then had breakfast and then came back and worked out for another 2 hours and then ate dinner and came back and worked out for another 2 hours. Well, that's 6 hours, and everybody else is only working out for 2 hours. So people get obsessed with it. I think you got to have fun with the sport when you're young. You got to learn to love it. But if you really want to go to the next level, then you should be playing basketball probably every day in one form or another. Working on your ball handling and your fundamentals. It's really difficult. Parents ask me that question all the time. Well, I don't want to play travel basketball yet or do this extra training. I just want my kid to have fun. And I totally get that because when I was in high school, I played 3 sports. I went from football to basketball to baseball. In the summer, sometimes I played soccer, right? We're trying to have fun. But it's different now. Like if you want to start on your varsity team, you better have all kinds of skills. You look at, it's because I know Aaron Garrity's daughter, Paige, she's only a sophomore. And the way she handles the ball, the basketball decisions that she can make is far beyond I could ever do as a senior when I was in basketball back in 1994. Right, the times have changed, and everybody's more skilled, everybody's more talented than they were back years ago. So if you want to be competitive, then you probably need to be on a good travel program. You need to be playing basketball every day, and you can't do that just on your own to go shoot around on the court. Like you need to learn
TK, you back with us? All right, having a little trouble connecting with Tom Koval. Get him back. We will make sure to put him back on the podcast so we can do our men's basketball tournament predictions. Again, happy to have you with us on the Gem City Sports Podcast, brought to you by our friends at Reax Investments, keeping financial guidance simple. More info, visit their website, www.reaxinvestments.com, or you can simply call their phone number during normal business hours, 814-734-3433. Again, 814-734-3433. In case you missed it, Tom Koval's District 10 Boys Basketball Player of the Year. Nanda Mararki is Girls Basketball Player of the Year. Michaela Presser-Palmer. So that's what Tom has for his March Madness for school. Those are his picks for Player of the Year. Now he's back with us. I don't know. Maybe it was Cleve coming in there to zap you away because he was upset with the Kobe Bryant jersey.
Thought the internet connection went down, so it's probably my son up there streaming all the NCAA games at the same time while we're doing the show. So,
well, it's a good transition because that's what we're going to end the show with. I know we're kind of cheating on this because we didn't make it before the game started, but there are enough teams in any way that we can do that. You and I, Tom, are going to go ahead and pick our tournament champion, who we think is going to win the NCAA men's basketball tournament. And by the way, Cleve was talking about how he was watching the John Calipari in Arkansas taking on Kansas. It looks like that Arkansas is going to hold on and win that game. So everyone does a bracket. Everyone picks a tournament winner, whether you're a fan of NCAA D1 basketball or not. Floor is yours, Tom. I'm going to let you go first on this. Who you've picked in one of your brackets to win the NCAA men's basketball tournament?
Well, boy, I think it's a tough year this year. I mean, there's the one seed very strong. I mean, as you can tell before, I'm not going to pick Duke as a Carolina fan. But I not pick Duke in Cleveland. I'm going to tell you why. Right? It has nothing to do with Coach K and the culture and the history there. I think they're young. They're a young team, and I really like to lean on the older teams. I like Alabama going far, and I have them knocking off Duke. I like St. John's with Pitino. They play really great defense, but ended up going with Florida for my pick. I think they're probably one of the hottest teams the way they're playing right now, and they have 3 guards that can really cook, man. And I think guards can just win things in the tournament for you. It's great to have a big guy like Auburn, but if you have some really good guards, and I think Florida's got 3 of them, I can see them making a great run and taking the whole thing as a Gator. So I'm going with the Gators.
I like it. I figured you were going to first say a caveat with that. I think an SEC team's going to win, given the fact that they have 1 in 5 chance based on the number of teams that they got in on winning the whole thing. Florida's a good pick. It's a popular pick. A lot of people are taking the Gators. I'm actually going to go with somebody else, the SEC. And again, I don't get a chance to watch this conference that often, but I watched the SEC championship game, and I was impressed with Florida. I was also impressed with the team they were playing. I think Tennessee's got a really good draw, and I think they've got a chance to go all the way and win this thing. I was with you with St. John's. I almost picked St. John's to win the tournament. Rick Pitino is an unbelievable coach, and maybe out of anybody in the field, the one coach I would trust the most, to work with my kid to grow his skills in basketball and things of that nature. But, I'm going to take the Volunteers here. I think, they've got a couple of bigs that can really drive and be aggressive. They can also play fast based on what I've seen. So I'm going to take the Volunteers. I'm not really huge on the number 1 seed hype. I just don't know if there's as much of a gap between the ones and the rest of the field as everybody else is playing it out to be. And for me too, I think with Duke, as good as they are, I also think they're going to get to a point where maybe it's going to be a Cooper Flagger bust, because we saw them struggle, almost blow that lead in the ACC tournament to North Carolina without him. And I just, I don't know what your take is on this, but as much as you fear teams that are young, I fear teams that have a really star stud player. Purdue couldn't win the national championship with Zach Edey. There are plenty of guys who were superstars who couldn't win the title. I don't know if that's going to be the case. But I'll tell you what, St. John's with Rick Pitino, they're going to be a tough out.
Man, they can defend. They remind me a lot of the old Pitt teams when Jamie Dixon was coaching there. And
yeah.
I just that translates differently because Pitt always seemed to have trouble in the tournament. They had trouble scoring, right? But I think St. John's has a little bit of scoring to go with them. So it'll be interesting to see. I had a really hard time deciding between St. John's and Florida in that Elite Eight game going into the Final Four. So we'll see what happens. There's some great teams, and I'm just hoping for some exciting games. That's for sure.
Man, this is the best time of year. It's one of the best times of the year. Even for people who don't watch a lot of college basketball, you are without a doubt glued to your TV sets. And then there's college wrestling too right now, and Masters is coming up next month. They got a lot of great stuff going on, and we're going to be super happy to be there with you through the entire way. Been a great high school season. We're going to have more basketball stuff in the coming weeks as well as we kind of wind things down even further. But what a season it was, and TK. Only things looking up next year, because as we talked about, a lot of the players that, including some of the ones that we named as our players of the year, they're juniors. They'll be back next season.
Yeah, there's, it's going to be really interesting. A lot of those kids are going to be working hard in the off season, in the summer. We'll get to see some new roles with some of the seniors leaving, and see some girls step up, get some new faces, some on the girls teams and the boys teams. See who's going to step up and fill those roles. That's always exciting to see some new kids that, now it's my time, and to see them step up. It's really exciting to see success.
Grind never stops, and neither do we. We're done for the week. Again, make sure, though, if you missed this episode tonight, or if you want to watch our draft podcast episode with Paul Adamczak, he's talking more stuff about the cornerback position as well as some other key positions, local teams. Check that out, the draft podcast on the Gem City Sports Podcast Network. And our next show coming up Monday, 9 o'clock on X, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and TalkErie.com to start our week. Maybe we'll have some free agency news as well, and we'll see if Tom and I's picks are still in the tournament by that point, because the round of 32 always proves to be a lot of fun. We know that for sure. All right, we'll see you next week, everybody. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday.